Can you hear me?
Can might be mine.
I think you have to turn yours. Okay, guys, I think, yay. Sorry about that. We'll start again. Yeah, I think Darren's power went down on his temporarily, so I think that was what hit. So let's start again. So, morning, everybody. It's Alan and Darren. We're going to be doing a presentation on SOSTAC. So Darren's going to start, and he's going to have a few slides. So if you want to share your screen, hopefully that will all be okay. And then I'm going to go on to the AI side of things and show you some tools that you can use to speed stuff up.
Brilliant, thank you. Can everyone see my screen just briefly before I move on? Yeah, all good. Right, okay. Lots of emojis going off this morning. Hasn't January been a long month? I can't believe it.
It's going to be a long morning if we carry on like this.
Right, if we go down or anything, just give us a shout. We'll keep an eye on chat and we'll go. So we wanted to talk about two things today. Three things really. We'll go through SOSTAC, which is just one framework, but it's a particularly relevant one because it covers all the different elements of digital marketing. And then we'll move on to talk about how we can incorporate that into AI, how we can build plans for 2026 using a couple of different tools, because we've done 2 years plus of using tools and working with different systems. So we'll give a couple of pointers on things to use to help you speed up your strategy delivery in 2026, which is the third thing. And I want to also use SOSTAC as a jump off point to really talk about some of the things that I'm thinking about or I've witnessed that may become more important in 2026. Some of the things you might disagree with, which is cool because we can have a chat about that and a discussion. Some of the stuff is not necessarily 2026 related, but is stuff that is becoming more prevalent as we're starting to think about marketing plans going forward. So this is SOSTAC. SOSTAC was created by PR Smith. Now he's released a 2025-2026 version, which you can find in multiple different places, which incorporates elements of AI within it. So it's kind of SOSTAC from an AI perspective. So that's available now. SOSTAC is a framework that is utilized so that we can get a good handle on 6 core components. So what's the situation we're working within at the moment, both internally as a business and externally, the environment we're sitting within. Objective, if anyone's been on the DMI course, I know there's a couple of students here today because I've seen a couple of you pop up in the chat. The objective is always critical. And it comes down to the question of what commercial objectives have we got and why are we doing what we're planning to do on the various different channels and the content choices and all these types of things. The main bulk of it is going to be the strategy. Then SOSTAC starts to include tactics, which is not strategy, but the individual elements that make up our plan. Then we go through action. How do we execute those tactics? And then control. How do we measure? How do we make sure that things are staying on track? So that is SOSTAC, kind of a really quick tour of it. If you want to know more about how to implement that, there's many articles, books available on SOSTAC, and you can fit all your marketing plans.
And you don't have to just use it for marketing. You can use it for any aspect of business.
Of course, yeah.
So it's very flexible, which is great.
So I kind of had 2 options I could go down with this. I could sit here and talk to you for 15, 20 minutes about the individual elements of what SOSTAC is, and we could go through the 4 Ps and SWOT and PESTLE and positioning charts. But I think most people are probably aware of that stuff already, and it's quite easy to research as you sort of pick up a book and then start to go through this process alongside SOSTAC. So I thought, well, I won't do that because most people know that stuff and it'll bore the socks off you for 20 minutes if we just went through it, all the basic things. So what I want to do is go through all the different elements, situation through to strategy, tactics, actions, control. But I want to take it from a view of things that are on my mind and things to think about as we go into 2026 under the umbrella of SOSTAC, so we can start to incorporate that and think about that when we're building out our plans. So I'm going to go through each of those elements, and then if you have any comments or thoughts on it, post them in the chat. We can have a chat at the end about it if we've got some time. I'm sure we will. Me and Anne usually overrun by about 10 minutes. So we're officially going to end at 10, but we'll stick around. So situation is the first element of SOSTAC to think about. When we're thinking about situation, the first thing I thought of is data. I've been doing a lot of data stuff at the moment and a lot of attribution things. When we look at data, data is becoming much more fragmented than it was. I'm looking at platforms at the moment and we're trying to establish a source of truth. And I don't know if there is one anymore. Everything is relevant to the platform it's on, but platforms are quite self-serving at the moment. So you might see a certain number of conversions in one channel, you go into another one and they've claimed that same conversion. So last click, first click, balanced attribution. It's all a bit of a mess at the moment. So truth is going to depend, it already does really, but going forward on where you look. And anyone that runs multiple different channels and campaigns is going to know that pain, and having a central dashboard. That's where having a really good team, really experienced team, a really strong agency is going to help you look at those numbers, find a source of truth, so then you can actually make decisions.
I've got a really good example for you. We just did an analysis of one of our big e-commerce clients, and there was a 28% discrepancy between the number of sales and revenue between their Magento website and analytics. 26%. It was ridiculous. So none of the results really meant anything. So we had to multiply everything up when we were doing things like ROAS calculations in PMax. It was such a big difference.
Exactly. Yeah. So we need to stop chasing specific numbers. We need to accept an element of directional truth over specifics. You know, are things improving, declining? Is brand search trending up? Is lead quality improving, even if the volume might be slightly lower than previous? And then we move on to attribution. So the old way of thinking would be, we look at attribution and where the attribution lies, and then we assign the budget based on the attribution. The reality at the moment is that attribution consistency is partial, probably at best. You've got a lot of assisted conversions and activity going on, a lot of what we call dark influence, which is the norm really, things coming from multiple different places, and black holes in our reporting. AI search, the increasing popularity over social discovery, all of this stuff is starting to mess with our attribution. It's starting to break last click completely. So we need to start to look for more qualitative signals, look at channel contribution over specific channel credit. And if your situation analysis that you do relies solely on granular attribution details, I think you're going to find it's probably quite weak or prone to failure. And then we move on to search. So when we're thinking about situation and we're thinking about search, search is no longer just Google anymore. It's very fragmented. People are going to discover you via social marketplaces. AI rise has meant that people are kept in AI LLM tools to find answers to things. You've got communities. Brand recall for businesses is going to come from multiple different sources, different formats. And that makes a difference when we're doing reporting as well and looking at a situation, because low search volume doesn't necessarily equal low demand anymore. People might be in the market or interested in something, and demand might exist, but traditional tools that we're using to calculate that might not necessarily see that information, because we're not able to properly track things like, or we're starting to now with tools that are coming out, AI search and these types of things. Competitive advantage is a lot thinner than it was. AI has completely flattened execution. Like I said, it's no longer that will speed us up, that will become a USP if we can do things faster. It's now an expectation because everyone is doing it. That means creative gaps are going to close really quick. Best practice is spread instantly. If something works, people see it, people adopt it, and then it stops being a competitive advantage for you. I'll come back to AI a few times throughout this and before we move and hand over to her. And then we need to think about internal constraints. One thing that sometimes gets overlooked when we're thinking about our situation is we're so focused on the marketing activity and what we're going to do that we're stopping to think about our operations data quality, which again is important when it comes to AI. What skills gaps have we got if we want to pick certain channels, because every channel is more complex than it ever was. And then operationally, if our marketing is super successful, do we have the stock, the fulfillment, the vans, the lorries to then go out and deliver that product? So thinking about what operational constraints and internal constraints we've got available. Budget's another one. We always talk about time, money, and people. Have we got enough time, enough money, and enough skill set and people to be able to deliver on the objectives that we want to reach in the situation that we're in? So just a couple of things there. I probably could have come up with 5 more, but we haven't got enough time. So there's a couple of things to think about when we're talking about the situation at the moment. So I'm going to move on to objectives. The first thing when it comes to setting objectives is that I don't think volume goals are as important anymore. The old objectives were going to be around things like we need to increase our volume, we need to grow as many impressions as possible, we need to lower cost per click, get more leads. I think the reality is that traffic can grow, but revenue can still fall. Cheap leads can sometimes destroy sales teams because they're so busy filtering out the rubbish and trying to figure out what a quality lead is from a bad lead. And I think efficiency is going to matter more than just pure scale. So we need to have that element of value over just volume, and making sure that the objectives that we set, they survive that financial conversation about what is quality and what is not, and what are we chasing here. And as with any objective, if you can't say why an objective matters commercially, it's not an objective. And then we move on to platform KPIs versus business objectives. Keep in mind, click-through rate is not a goal. Return on ad spend is not a business metric. Engagement doesn't pay the wages. Platform metrics are not control metrics, and they're not objectives. So if your objectives, and think about your own marketing at the moment and what you focus on when you think about objectives, if your objectives live inside a platform or a platform dashboard, you're probably thinking about things at too low a level, and they're at the wrong level for what you need to focus on commercially. Have fewer objectives. I don't think I need to harp on too much about this, but there's going to be budget pressures in 2026. Everyone's got less money. Everyone wants that money to go further. We need to have trade-offs on where we focus our time and our effort. 2 to 4 objectives is perfect. It's that old thing of if everything's going to be important to you, then nothing's going to be important. And then keep in mind your constraints: sales capacity, fulfillment limits, stock risk, customer support load. All of these things are going to matter when you're thinking about your objectives. So if you think about, say, grow revenue as an objective, well, grow revenue without capacity awareness is going to be irresponsible. So we need to frame things better. For example, grow profitable revenue is going to be more important. Improve your conversion rate before we scale. That's a great objective. Protect your margin at the over chasing volume of conversions and sales. That's going to make your money go further. That's going to make you think a bit more dynamically about it. Then we go on to the strategy portion of SOSTAC. AI, so execution is no longer your differentiator. We just mentioned this. AI's collapsed the cost of production. Best practice spreads instantly, like we said. Everyone can launch fast. Everyone can adapt quickly. So you need to make sure you're using those tools in the right way. So that execution speed is now the status quo. Everyone needs to be able to move fast. And if you think moving fast is a competitive advantage, it's not, and it's not part of your strategy. That's just something that's the de facto thing to do. Just chat, okay? Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, I'll chat.
All good. When we're setting strategy, think audience first over channel first. There is a habit that exists when setting strategy that we start by thinking about what channels do I want to be on? And then from that, we bolt on the audience. In 2026, and it's again been the case for a while, discovery paths are not linear. Channels overlap, they blur. audience behavior matters more, and it's going to matter more than platform mechanics are. So we need to ask questions when we're building strategy. Things you need to ask yourself: who are we really for? What problem are we solving for our consumers? When do we show up versus when do we not show up? And then once we've started to think about putting the audience first and where we're building that engagement, we can then start to think downstream about what channels are going to fit our audience and fit our objectives. Have a think about what differentiators you have. So what makes you different? What do you do that others don't? What do you do that others can struggle with sometimes? I really like the idea of what is your unfair advantage? Do you have access to specific data that competitors don't? Is your brand particularly strong and so you can leverage that over them? Do you have a bigger team? Do you have better trust, speed, partnerships? Anything you can do to come up with these things that beat your competitors, identify, put down as part of your strategy, and then exploit that and leverage that so you can make some asymmetry between competitors and make sure that you can build things that competitors can't copy. Because anything at that level that AI can produce for your competitors that they can then copy and just do isn't going to be a strategic differentiator for you and your business. And the last one on strategy I want to mention is just that we need to acknowledge trade-offs, budget pressures, rising costs, flatter performance curves than before. So we need to make sure that when we're doing our strategic choices, we're aware of what the downsides are. Strategy inherently should have risk in it. If it doesn't have risk, you're doing too much, you're trying to do everything. And then if you do everything, nothing's going to work as well as you want. So focus on specific things within your strategy. When I'm talking about sacrifice, you think about things like if your strategy is to focus on high intent buyers, then what you're going to sacrifice there is broad level of awareness amongst the general market. If you protect your margins, then you're going to sacrifice rapid scaling. If you go deep on two channels, then you're going to sacrifice coverage across the rest. So it's that trade-off and understanding that, but being aware that if you focus, and you should really focus, then there's going to be trade-offs, and we need to be aware of what those trade-offs are. I hope I'm not going too fast, but we're 20 minutes in. I just want to get through some of these thoughts before we move on to the AI bit. Tactics are the executions. So these are the things that we do day to day. AI, again, has flattened a lot of tactical advantage. The uncomfortable truth is everyone has access to the exact same AI tools. Production speed is no longer rare. More content is going to be existing. That's going to create more noise for you and for competitors and the market in general. That's no longer that protective moat that we sit inside because there's just more out there and the content is of a lower quality. We can think about that as a potential advantage as we go into 2026. We need to leverage AI, but we also want it to be original and inspired and human. So how do we leverage AI while still achieving those things against that brand and tone of voice and all these types of things? I've put in that channels are converging, not specializing. So the old way of thinking is that SEO would cover your search, paid would capture your demand, social would raise your level of awareness. The reality is that SEO is no longer search. That comes in multiple different formats. One of them could be social. Social could be now a form of search. Search has become more of a discovery option alongside AI, and AI answers nowadays with Google AIO. So you go on Google, you do a search, and AI comes up. And the search that people do now, and you might have seen it in your own behavior, I certainly have, of going on ChatGPT to search. They may bypass your website entirely and never actually go on it at all. So we need to change our thinking around what tactics we deploy under that new way of dealing with search and channels converging together. So think about discovery moments, think about intent signals, think about your message consistency across all of these different platforms. Stop thinking about channels just in silo, because that's not how search market behaves these days. Focus on have focus rather than breadth of different things that you do. People often in business plans have too much channels, not enough depth in those channels. There's constant context switching. So people are trying to do multiple things in much more complex systems. You're going to get better results from 2 or 3 core channels executed on a really deep level. Support those channels intentionally with the right content and all these other creative elements. And that's going to help you kill low impact activity across a wide range of things. Then we've got creative. Algorithms are rewarding engagement and quality engagement. Your targeting options are shrinking, so we need to make sure that the message relevance matters more. We need to make sure that we've got a good, clear creative in place. We can leverage AI to help achieve creative, but be aware that everyone is producing AI content at the moment. So we need to use good creative as a lever for that to stand out from a crowd of AI at the moment. Now that has a benefit, because if we produce really good creative content, we can stand out, because most people at the moment are quite obsessed with just AI content and pushing it out. But regardless of that, there's so much noise out there. There's so much creative and content being produced that it's going to be that much harder to be found either way. But you can utilize good creative as a lever, I think, in 2026. And think about measurement over reporting, because attribution is weak, data is fragmented and everywhere. We can't always optimize from what we observe through reporting. So have faster testing cycles, have this mentality of kill it or scale it, so that we know what we can have a look at. Generally, are things moving in the right direction? Try and figure out what is working in that right direction, and then push those channels more and get more out of it. Learn from your objectives, not just performance targets. So have a think about, what are our objectives? What do we want to achieve? Is it brand recognition? If so, are our brand search mentions increasing? Are people having good brand recall as a result? And then focus on those as objectives rather than looking at particular performance metrics and trying to uncover where people came from or how they came in or the attribution of different things. 2 more actions next. I want to talk about complexity, because there's more tools, more automation, there's more AI generated outputs than ever. There's much more moving parts than ever when we come to the actual action and implementation stage. So complexity across a range of different things has just exploded. We need clarity, because if we don't have clarity, the speed in which we can work will turn your strategic plans into chaos. So we need to have ownership over each thing. We need to know who's working on what their targets are, and make sure there's one person working on each thing rather than a pool of people working on each thing. And ownership is that big failure point that often exists when you've got shared ownership. You've got invisible dependencies that exist across teams, and it's not written down on paper, and one person's waiting for something else, and then that thing never happens. Or you have meetings, and then things get left in meetings and no decisions off the back of it. So then there's uncertainty over who's doing what and by when. So be really clear on who owns what channel, what metrics, what objectives, who's doing what when it comes to
this year, well, last year, we implemented and are implementing the enterprise operating system with Paul, and that's been really good, because it's systemized, and it gives you a lot of discipline, whereas we're very creative, not particularly disciplined in the past. So it means that every action you follow a structure, and that makes a big difference in some of this.
I'm blasting through this, and I'm talking as if we do these things perfectly. Most of the stuff we fall victim to, as anyone would, and it's the degree which you do, and being aware of and considering these things. But we're no more perfect. We make these same mistakes sometimes. We're more aware than some others when it comes to certain things. The team is awesome when it comes to attribution, for example. So I considered putting in here, a statement like attribution is dead. I don't think it's dead, but it is very, very difficult. And often what we need to do is, rather than find specific sources of truth, we are aware of multiple different forms of truth and then point that in the right direction to get the answer, because we're not going to get specific answers from data these days. AI, where are we? Point 3 on action. AI is going to introduce new risks for you. I'm a big advocate for AI, but I'm also a big critic of it. So I think that's a healthy position to take. AI is integral to speeding you up. Be aware who checks the accuracy of AI. What's the output? Who owns the prompts, the custom GPTs, the Claude projects, so that we know the output is going to be the same every time. And who's accountable when AI goes wrong? If it does, who do we go to? Policies, governance. We need to make sure that we're checking these things and we've got a system in place. Don't just work off vibes, because that's not going to work. You need to make sure there's actual governance in place and policies and procedures and data and all these types of things to make sure it just works. It's not just bureaucracy and paperwork and red tape. We need clarity from AI to produce the right results. I'm not going to go through handover. I think that's something that just exists anyway, but be aware of handover risks and red flags, because that's often where, when we get to the action stage of the strategy, things can sometimes fall off. We do all that research and come up with our objectives, and we pick the right channels, and then we go to the handover stage and things fall apart at agency to internal teams communication, or marketing to sales, or marketing to ops. So be aware of that handover stage. And then be aware of capacity constraints. I've been through that one. Be aware of when you need to, if teams are stretched, have you got the right resources, all of those different constraints, because they're going to become more important. Because like I said, people got less money and less resources. And then we move on to the last one of SOSTAC, control. When we talk about control, perfect measurement is just gone. You won't get clean user journeys. You're not going to get perfect attribution. There's no longer one source of truth. There hasn't been for a long time. So we need to be aware of that. Cross-device, cross-platform journeys are pretty invisible. AI is going to break click trails entirely. I've noticed that analytics is not great sometimes at attributing those sources back, or they look weird, or they've got different UTM codes and all of these types of things. So it's pretty broken at the moment. Attribution when it comes to AI is far from perfect, which is interesting because they're going to start monetizing AI soon, introducing things like, I saw ChatGPT going to start introducing impression-based ads. So it'll be interesting how we control that and measure that.
That'll give you some data though.
Yeah, have fewer metrics when we're controlling. Don't drown in numbers. I see most teams are drowning in numbers at the moment. We've got dashboards, 40+ metrics, especially if you're sitting at a high level of the strategy. Make sure you have an idea on which metrics matter and have analysis with action. If you've got metrics but there's no action back of it, it's a pointless metric to have. And make sure we've got those metrics at the right level in the business. Separate your objectives from your control metrics. Objectives is what success looks like. Control metrics is how you monitor progress. And then we've got direction versus optimization. This could be quite a contentious one. Maybe it depends what level you're at. In 2026, micro optimization might start to deliver diminishing returns, especially with the rise of AI within tooling. Strategic drift, I think, is going to play a bigger risk to businesses than making sure you get another 0.3% improvement on your click-through rates and all these things. Those things are going to matter, but what matters more is making sure that we are in control of moving that needle on a big scale, learn fast. How do we change course if we need to change course? Those types of questions are going to dominate discussions amongst strategy owners. And it's going to matter more, I think, than those micro optimizations will. And then we've got control, and rhythm as a last sort of point here. If you don't have rhythm to your reporting frequency, then things are going to unravel. And when I talk at the DMI, I talk about putting those reporting sessions in the calendar before a strategy starts, so that everyone knows what they're going to report and when. Because sometimes monthly is too slow, weekly is too noisy, quarterly it's too late. So what are we going to do on a week, month, and quarterly basis? It could be, if it's weekly, it's tactical. And maybe some of those micro optimizations. How are we going to focus on improving things weekly? And then monthly, we're talking about strategic health. And then when you get to quarterly, we're talking about more strategic direction, measurement, and things that happen on a broader sort of top level. So I'm going to catch my breath. I've talked for longer than I meant to, but that's 35 minutes on SOSTAC. Some of the things that I think of when I think about 2026 under the kind of SOSTAC umbrella.
Have you got a nice mirror board too?
No.
Okay.
Well, no, I think we move on.
Okay, I'll share my screen.
I'll monitor chat in the meantime. Any questions, give me a shout. Hope it didn't go too fast. I'll stop sharing as well.
Okay. Right, I'm going to share my screen now. So I want to focus on two things. I want to focus on two tools that you can use, one of which is a custom GPT that I've created, and the second one is utilizing Claude. So I'm going to start with the custom GPT. I'm just going to go and grab the URL. I can't turn my WhatsApp messages. They keep coming through. I'm not sure how to do that. Let me just log out of WhatsApp. That would be the best thing to do. Hopefully that will stop them. Right, so this is a custom GPT. And if you're not used to custom GPTs, you only get them in the paid package. But I can give you a link, and you may well be able to use it even if you haven't got a paid ChatGPT package. You definitely can't build your own, but recently they changed it that you don't have this GPT section here. Now behind the scenes can you see that okay? Is that sharing? Okay. Yeah. So could we have a quick in the chat, how many of you actually use custom GPTs? That would be really, really helpful. And then that will allow us to have an idea of how popular they are. So custom GPTs are effectively a recipe which allows you to do things faster when you actually come to use it. The other thing about a custom GPT, which I'll show you behind the scenes in a second, is that you can train it with lots of information and useful documents and things. So the virtual CMO and AI for marketing one, which I've just shared, do you think you could share the link for me? If you go and grab it from our... Yep. The way that it works is the best thing you do with any custom GPTs, what I can do is there's a whole library of them. And you can go and search for different ones. So you could go and search for marketing plan in here, and then it will come up with a load. Whoops, I type it correctly. And then this will bring up the ones that other people have created. And then you can see there's a load here. And then I've got my GPTs, which is all the GPTs that Darren, me, Holly, and a few other members of the team have created. You can see there's some ones we use for training there as well. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly show you behind the scenes what that looks like, and explain what is built behind them. But this is not a training session on custom GPTs. And if you are interested in learning how to build them, we do have a 2-day AI training course on the 2nd and 9th of Feb, where we actually build this stuff and teach you how to build them. And then we also teach you some other automation stuff as well. So if I go all the way down to the bottom, this is it here. If I go to the edit, I just want to show you what's happening behind the scenes. So when you normally start building them, you usually come into a scene like this, and this would be pretty much blank. And you can say, I want to build a custom GPT to review my handbook. And then you can add your handbook in here, and then you can title it, and you start to get something that looks like this, which was pretty much the same as what we were showing before, but I'm in the preview mode. But what you want to look at is what's actually happening here. So this is my prompt, which you've all heard about prompting, and this is a really detailed prompt about what it actually does for us. These are the conversational starters here, and then at the bottom is all the things that I've put into it. So these are my books. So I've got the A10 marketing framework, I've got the integrate book, both of which you can get the full versions on the website, and then also the new C10 AI framework. It can do other things. It can link through to the web, and you can create actions as well. But this is the basic one. So what I'll quickly do is I can run it in here. So I can write something like, what can you do for me? And then it will give me a whole list of the sorts of things that it can do. So I'm actually going to go and do that over in the live version. But if you didn't quite get the answer that you want, over here in the create mode, you can tweak it. Now this custom GPT, which I built pretty much 2 years ago now, it probably took me a couple of days to build, because I was going backwards and forwards to try and get the right result and have the functionality that I want. But it's actually designed to write your business plan for you. So I'm going to quickly go back to where it was live. Get back to this one. So let me show you how it works. So one of the things that you need to understand with AI, particularly when you're using the chat versions, is the information that the AI brings back is chunked in blocks of sort of 100 to 200 words. That's how it retrieves the data. So although it can produce a much bigger document, if you ask it to write you a whole plan, what tends to happen is that you don't get a very good answer. Or if you asked it to produce a whole blog, you don't get the best possible answer. You're better off asking it to do jobs in a sort of broken down, structured way. So for example, if you ask a blog, can you give me the structure of my marketing plan? Or can you give me the structure of my blog? And you get that first, then you can go into each section at a time. So just to give you an idea of how you can use this tool to help with your marketing, it doesn't put us out of work, but it does do a lot of your day-to-day job for you. So first of all, you can do strategic marketing planning and audits. You can also do channel planning and campaign implementation. It talks about measurement, and it gives us a load of examples of sorts of things it can help you with. So it can audit. So if you've already developed a plan and you want to review it, this is a good place to do it. It can create customer personas and target markets, and it can build the actual go-to-market strategy. It can recommend tools. It can recommend hooks, calendars, etc. So what I would always recommend when you're using any AI is you load as much of your own content as you've got. So I can give you an example. So if I said something like, based on our website, and then I would put in HTTPS, anicca.co.uk, or I could use a client's, of course, for targeting e-commerce businesses in the UK and North East America. What elements do I need for my marketing plan for 2026? It's not very good with time, so I always recommend, and believe it or not, I'm absolutely awful at spelling. It's actually quite good at understanding all my misspellings. which is fortunate because my typing is terrible. So it's looking at our site, and what it's doing straight away is, instead of it actually writing the plan for you, it actually recommends that you do these steps. Now, I could have changed it and said, well, okay, I want to do it based on SOSTAC, and we'll see if we get a different answer. But notice it's using the information I provided. So POETIC is one of the acronyms that we use, which covers paid, owned, earned, technical media and measurement, etc. So this is giving me a structure that I can use. And then instead of trying to say, oh, write me the plan, I would say something like, what info is missing to write the plan? And what you're doing is you're using it as a tool, as assistant to help you write this. Now, this is really good, but you do need to spend quite a lot of time on it, and you need to load everything up. Now, I use this a lot, but this predates Claude, which I'm going to show you next. So I personally, even though, because I've used this so much already, I've already got those elements already built. So I've got documents on our ICP, I've got documents on different channels, I've got other things like that. So I've got all these elements of the jigsaw piece that I can put together. But if I'm actually building a plan, I would actually use Claude projects. And the reason I wanted to show you a custom GPT and a Claude project is that you can start to see the crossovers and the similarities. Now, the main advantage before we leave it of a custom GPT is that you can program it in the sense that you can really get those instructions and work with it to get the best possible answers and get it to answer in your tone. With a Claude project, it has other advantages because it's got a memory and you can keep a whole series of messages, but the prompt inside of it isn't as good in the sense that you don't really train it like you can with a custom GPT. The other advances of a custom GPT is it's public and that you can, if you want, share it with your team, whereas a project is only the people that have got access via signing in, and that's quite a big difference. So you just need to be aware of that difference. Now, I'm going to go over to a different window, and you can see just how often I've used it. I've got 4 different things running at the moment. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly go over to Claude over here. Now, interestingly, we use projects and Claude so much, particularly when we're building automations, that we have got the $75 a month package, not the 20, and that's because we could spend hours in it, and if you're in the free package, you get kicked out really quickly, and with the $20 package in Claude, you actually, after a couple of hours, the message becomes too big and you get kicked out. I'll show you that in a bit more in detail, but you can see the sorts of things. So I've got a daily record of posting and assistant. So all the stuff I do every day, I sort of journal in here, and it helps me do my LinkedIn posts. I've got this is Zach has got a LinkedIn project. This got a couple of client things. This is my coding assist where I do all my coding. This is where I'm playing around with ads. I've got a load of stuff on programming Nano Banana. And this is page plan, but this is the one I'm going to go into, go-to-market strategies for Anicca combined brand. Now, this is all to do with the fact that we've been working on AI for the last, really intensely for the last 18 months, but really for 3 or 4 years now. And also you've got Anicca Digital, which is, it's our 19th birthday next month. Would you believe it, how quickly that's come around? So how do you merge the concepts of AI-powered marketing? So the first thing you'll notice when you are in a project is that you've got a whole load of information on the right, and then you've got a whole load of messages on the left. So I'm going to just go back to all projects a minute and show you what it looks like when you start. So if you were going to do 2026 marketing plan, you would call it something like that. You can, and then what you would do is create the project. And then the first thing that you would do is you can write a prompt of detailed description, and I would get something like ChatGPT or Claude itself to help you write and explain what you want to do. So if you've been on any of our other training, we would use something like a CoStar prompt to do this, which is the technique which gives it all the context and the objectives. So start with a sort of an idea of what you want this project to do, and also give it context about the way you want it to answer, UK English, the style, etc. And get one of the LLMs to prompt that, and so you can add it in here, and even get Claude to do that. Now you see, I don't use that too much because I use mine so much that it quickly picks up what I'm trying to achieve. But the really important bit is add in all your references. So add in your creds, add in your all your files and all your documents. And also when you're in Claude, it also creates documents that you can add to the project. So that's what it looks like when it's new. And if I how would I use SOSTAC to create a marketing plan for my digital marketing agency, selling to e-commerce businesses? So if I wrote something as simple as that, which is usually your starting point, it's going to provide me an answer. And what it will also do is it will provide me docs. So it's explaining, we could have done this instead of you doing your slides, Darren. You've got Claude to do it in 2 minutes.
Don't need me.
We don't need me anymore either. So you can see it does here, and it's sort of explaining what it does. And then it's said, okay, so what you would then ask it is something, okay, what information do you need from me? Sorry, I am terrible at typing. And then it will guide you about what you want to do. So this, if you've never done anything like this before, this is a really good way of building this up. And you can see it starts to ask lots of questions. Now, I'm going to work on the basis that you're going to work through something similar to this. You can use my custom GPT to help you with this. But what I want to do, and can you see now, I've got a train of messages which start to build up. And in here, the advantage is it remembers it, referring to my last message. Can you give me a list of things I need to tell you and upload about my business? Now, what it should then do is it should go and read the previous information, and it will remember. So that's really useful because I didn't tell it what I was talking about and it knows. So that's really, really powerful. And the other thing you can do is, where possible, you only have a limited amount of time in these messages. What you can do is you can add it in the in here and refer to the files in here. And if you create a file in here, what I'm going to do, so I'm going to show you, can you create me a checklist I can add to my knowledge? Okay. And what it will do is it will produce you an artifact. Now, the good thing about Claude is that it can work with Excel and Word and produce you documents that are compatible. And in a minute, it will often trigger a panel on the right-hand side, which will allow us, you will actually be able to see it. So that's why I like this, because, yeah, it's just popped up now. So it's created me this artifact, and you can go and see previous artifacts down here. and you've got the ability to go and either copy this, download it, or add it to the project. So this makes the actual process of doing the job much easier. I'm going to go and show you one I've been working on. And I've been doing a lot of work in this. And I can show you some of the documents that I've been doing it. So what I've got in mind, if I show you the sorts of files, I've got examples of some of my work. I've got my creds. I've got my AI automation services for e-commerce. I've got a few other bits and pieces. Let me just add my, I won't add any more creds. And you can see I've been going down here, e-commerce growth strategies, email content, AI adoption for e-commerce vision, adapting aging brief notes of bias. So can you see these are the sorts of conversations that I've had? I'm just going to go into this one, which is the most recent one, and have a look what it's got in here. So yeah, go to the top. Okay. I want to use the files in my knowledge and attached documents to write a post in LinkedIn about why e-commerce managers and directors should be planning to use AI as part of their marketing growth strategy, especially with the impacts of, can you see how terrible my typing is? Overviews and recent developments in ChatGPT, deal with Shopify and Google announcement this week of the new protocol. And then I've just got a load of other stuff there. And so once you've built something like this and you've got all this information, you can use it for all sorts of things. So key points, summary, why e-commerce leaders must plan for AI in their growth strategy. And so this is sort of giving me material that I can use, what is agentic commerce and why it matters. So let me just flick that round and go back and create a new one. Based on all the information I have provided, can you find the go-to-market document I produced earlier? And how can I adapt this to a North Coast USA strategy? Okay. So I'm hoping it's going to find the information on the go-to-market strategy that I've produced before. If not, I can show you what that looks like because I've saved it to Drive. Yeah, okay. So I found the GTM document. It's the Anicca Digital Current Situation Go-to-Market Strategy and Growth Plan from January 25. This document already mentions potential expansion as part of the strategy. Now let me search for more context on the US market. So yeah, so in my GTM strategy, it just mentions, so what I'm going to ask it to do, and then it's telling me what to do. So I'm going to ask it to pull it up here. Can you display that document here? So it will actually go and find it and reproduce rather than me going searching for it, because it'll save me a bit of time. And then I can show you some of the elements of what's in it. So the thing I really like about using Claude is it's almost like having a go-to-market strategist sitting on your shoulder, advising you on what to do. So let me see what it's going to do. Apologies for the beeping if you can hear. So I'm going to just have a look rather than go on to the live document. Let's see if I can find the original. I'll go back and search for it. I probably loaded it in here, actually. So what I'm saying as we come to the close is what you need to be thinking about is how you can work with AI as an assistant that provides all the tools and things that you need. Can you see all these artifacts that it can load? So for example, here I've identified, this is the document I was working on. I've identified a whole load of sectors and types of sectors that I want. Let me see if I can find the actual document. The final thing I wanted to show you, because I know we haven't got a huge amount of time today, is I'm going to go and quickly show you two more things. First of all, I'm going to go and find that go-to-market document that I prepared, because I did want to make sure you realize that within a week you can do all this. So this is, I'm just going to search for GTM. Okay, so this is slightly anonymized, so that you've, it is confidential, so I won't show you all of it. But this is the document just while it's loading. So these are the sorts of things I've got in it. So I've got current business content, agency background, make this a bit bigger. Staff, sales and marketing background, business development, ideal customer profile, target sectors, services, marketing position. This is an outbound strategy, by the way, rather than inbound. Lead generation metrics, infrastructure, go-to-market this is for mainly email and calls, etc. And then I've got examples of the technology that I'm going to use. I've got copywriting and messaging ideas. So this is, I would say this isn't a business marketing plan. It's sort of like a departmental marketing plan in the sense that this is dealing with outbound. But I'll just click a few examples so that you can see rather than showing you everything. So if you look at our ideal customer profile, which I'm quite happy to share, you can see here, I've described the ideal customer profile. I've got target personas. I've got target sectors. Now, I've done a lot of that with Claude, but I can also do that with my virtual CMO as well. I've described our services, and then market positioning, channels that we're using already. Let me go down a little bit more. I've got some examples of emails that we've done before. I've got examples of problems that we might solve. So you can see how you can build up into a document that's incredibly detailed. And this is 40 pages. And what I would do is I would take this document and then I would actually create a summary of it, which you could then present, because it's not really going to be something that everybody in the team might want to do. So that would be my final. I'm just realized we've got to 10 o'clock. So I think we should see if there's any questions. I just finally want to show secret agents for you, because once you've got your plan, if you go to secretagents.ai, which is our agent, and go to the leaderboard section here, you can see there's lots of things that you can actually use in here. So there's lots of tools that can help you create, actually implement your plan. So you've got our prompt creator, you've got a news, you've got AI policy generator, which we were talking about earlier on. Definitely recommend you use that. You've got research agents, which you can use to go and research companies. So there's a whole load of tools in here that you might find quite useful when you're actually getting to the next stage. You've done your main strategy plan and you're actually getting into more of the tactics. So what I'm going to quickly do, just to finish off with, I'm just going to go back here. Is there any questions in the chat? Will I just do this?
Branimir had one on creating an app in Claude, but I think we need a bit more information from you.
Yeah. He's talking about the code side of it. Effectively, what you're talking about is almost like an assistant, which you can do. So custom GPTs can be converted into assistants with within OpenAI, and you can do something like that using the coding platform, but we're not going to cover any of that today, I'm afraid. So so using this Drive document, how would you change it to target? Getting loads of messages, sorry. I thought I'd logged out of it, but it doesn't always work. Target USA market. So basically, the advantage of Claude is it can read Drive, it can read your documents, and it can also produce them as docs and things as well. So sometimes it can't read it, and you have to connect it. So I definitely recommend you do that. And if you can't, you can always load PDFs. But I think that's everything for me. I think we should just see if there's any more questions, and I will stop sharing.
Ranamira, I think probably at some point we will, but it's not a topic we'll be covering soon. If you got any specific questions about that, I've been doing a lot of development work using Cursor and AI. So I should be able to point you in the right direction, even if I may not know the specific answer, but feel free to reach out to me. I'll pop my email address in there.
If you found it useful and you're interested, definitely, I haven't got the, I've got a review that you can, please feel free to give us a review. And then what I'll also do, if any of you are interested in the 2-day training course, I've got a link for the December one, but it actually now goes through to the one in February. So I'll just pop that up. The dates are obviously wrong. But if you're interested in the 2-day one, the dates are now, the new one is the 2nd and the 9th of February. And it's £400 plus VAT. And if you then go on and do the 10-day course, you get that money back. Brilliant. Thanks very much, everybody. Hope you've enjoyed that. Yeah, Gemini's great. Gemini's massively improved recently. Had a big update. Thank you so much, guys. Look forward to speaking to you. Our next one is in 2 weeks' time. We will be covering marketplaces and retail media. Thanks a lot then, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.